And now we actually move into representatives from an organization that you talked about several times. So Julio Terracino, who is from the public governance team of the OECD, and he's going to at least partly talk about the new recommendations and the new thinkings about integrity policies. So he just yeah.
So hello, is this working? Yeah. So I understand it's been a long day for all of you, and I'm the last one before your dinner. But hopefully you find it interesting. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for inviting us, for inviting me. I found it actually very interesting. It's rarely I have the chance to discuss with so many researchers, and I want to highlight the multidisciplinary aspect, especially interesting. So I hope we have a good discussion, so I'll try to be brief. So again, thanks, and again, I would like to perhaps, I got the idea of telling you very briefly about where I'm coming from, so I understand what I say, where is this coming from. I work at the OECD. Many of you, and it has been mentioned now, may know the OECD convention. Actually, I don't work for that convention. I used to, and I know it very well. I used to do reviews for the OECD in countries, but the OECD does quite a lot of other type of work on anti-corruption, and I work in another side, which is the public governance side, as Sophia mentioned. Basically, what we do is, I would say, two types of work. On one hand, we take anti-corruption issues, let's say, and we analyze, we compare across OECD countries, we compare the type of systems they have, etc., etc. Most of our work, especially in the last 5 years, is providing assistance and support to countries, some OECD, but some others that are non-OECD members. And actually, that's what is perhaps the most enriching, and what some of the things that we've learned with by working with them that I want to share with you. I should say also that the approach we have to corruption, we actually really use the term, we always say, well, we work on public sector integrity, and we definitely don't work only on bribery, and I would say actually we work mostly on issues that are not related to bribery, issues such as, of course, as you may know, investment and conflict of interest, and I would say, at least in our work, issues related to public governance is the most damaging, actually, are issues that are not related to bribery, but all the other ones that have a serious impediment to simply have a good government, unfortunately, in most countries in the world. So, last disclaimer, I would say. We do use a lot of research in our work, and this is what I find most interesting, and you will see what I share with you is research combined with experience and practice. I think we are using even more and more research coming from behavioral insights. I don't know if I guess you're familiar with it, which we find actually very useful for our work with countries. But as you all know, corruption is an issue that is not only, mostly not a technical issue. There are two big problems, I would say, about addressing corruption. One is it's a political issue, and when I address it and when I am in countries, I'm dealing with politicians. So this is a huge constraint when we're talking about corruption and facing it. And as I said, well, it's not only technical, but it's mostly an issue that is political, and we have to take very much into account these things when we're talking, when we're researching, when we're proposing. So I'm going to start with something that maybe I've said it before, and a lot of people don't agree with me, which is the response to corruption should not be anti-corruption. What do I mean by anti-corruption is, perhaps, well, you have time to read the title of the presentation, is by anti-corruption, what I mean, and what we mean when we're working with countries, is these quick fixes, these flashy fixes. Trust me, many times we get a phone call from a country saying, we have a scandal, we want to pass this piece of law, which looks like a tiny issue, and we're like, well, I'm sure this is not going to work, because it's a quick fix, it's a flashy fix. But not only coming from governments, also from researchers, I'm saying, we're unfortunately constantly trying to find a new thing, a new bullet that will solve the issue. And actually, what I will argue here, and I'm going to tell you really at the end of this movie, is that there's no new thing. It's unfortunately back to the basics, back to the things that have been going on for a long time and that unfortunately we haven't paid enough attention. I'm going to focus on two issues as example of what we say going beyond cases and going beyond flashy fixes. On beyond cases, I refer to enforcement. We hear many times there's too much impunity. The solution is that we simply need to put more people to jail, we need to be tougher sentences. This is the solution. Of course, this comes from a logic and very old tradition, which is if you have more enforcement, if you put more control, corruption will be reduced. It's a simple, what we say is we appeal to the rational decision making of people. They will analyze and they will say, well, there's a tough sanction, so there's a deterrent effect, I will not engage in it. But we all know that that doesn't work. And especially if we talk about countries where there are many, unfortunately, where corruption is widespread. What are we going to do? Put everyone in jail? I've had discussions like this with government officials in which simply it's just more enforcement is not the solution and it's physically not possible. The other issue is about intrinsic motivation, and more we see this and we're discussing with countries we work with. And let me just, for my own sake, maybe you know, intrinsic motivation refers to behavior that is driven by internal rewards. In other words, the motivation to engage in behavior arises from within the individual because it is intrinsically rewarding. Actually, we worked a lot with in the past with Australia, and they had something that I use all the time when I talk, which is there are three types of people in every organization. They say, and this I learned from a person from Australia, from the government of Australia. One, they said there is a group which we call the angels. These are people that no matter what happens are good. They will always be good, but these are very few in an organization. The other group are the devils, are these ones that always try to cheat, always try to do the wrong thing. But again, these are few. The great majority are in the middle, and this gray zone, and they will adapt according to the culture of this organization. If we have a culture of angels, they will quickly move and become a big part of the angels. And we really believe in this intrinsic motivation. That the problem with intrinsic motivation is that a lot of the things we have in terms of control go against it. And I have it myself. Maybe if you work in organizations, how would you feel if you're asked to disclose all your assets? You're controlled by your boss and the boss and the boss and the other person and the colleague next to you and everybody. No one trusts you. You definitely will suffer, and actually you will become part of the problem also, because what we see is actually more controls we put, even in some cases, some type of enforcement have backfired and creating more corruption. And here I would like to share with you, as an example, that we've seen in many places is the famous 4I principle. You know it very well. The famous 4I principle is that if you take a decision, for example, in any organization, let's have two people review. For example, two people need to sign a document for a financial commitment. So you have 4 I's. The idea behind this, of course, logically makes sense. These people will control each other, and it's difficult to corrupt. It's more difficult to corrupt two than to corrupt one. But through behavioral experiences and a lot of research that comes from the behavioral insights world, I could say, we've actually learned that this is not working. And that in many cases, first, this situation actually goes against and creates many times a corrupt network. When corruption is in the organization, just put 4 or 6 or even more eyes, it will not work. Let me just, and then the problem is that we go back to what I said earlier about the issue of distrust. And what we've seen in some of these experiments and looking and interviewing the people that are part of these 4I principles, that you can see it's part of our lives. It's everywhere, in every organization we have. This is a basic, tool of control. What we see is actually that this is based on distrust. We are not appealing to the intrinsic motivation and to the motivation that most people are honest and most people are loyal to an organization. So this was more to talk about enforcement and cases. The second example that I want to give, perhaps even more controversial, is the issue of transparency. And when we talk about flashy fixes, we hear a lot, and again, governments that quickly want to pass a transparency law, create a freedom of information law, have some institution, autonomous we call it, to check the transparency. And what is behind? So I let you to read these two terms. So of course, when governments data and other data relevant to governance are open, accessible, and interoperable, the possibility for scrutiny and accountability increases immensely. And the other one is, of course, if you disclose the information, now the citizens can really see what's going on, and citizens can act, and can hold the government to account, and can change the government. But I have two problems with this information. First, that I think it should not be the case. If we go back in countries that are democracy, the basic system is that citizens vote to represent them, and these people are public officials to do their job. So if they are not doing their job, the solution is not to create a huge amount of auditors that then check on them because they are not doing their job. This is what I meant, that we need to fix the system that we have today. But the most important is, perhaps you would not agree, you would say, well, the changes, democracies are changing, and that's true. But perhaps the most important other point is that it doesn't work like that. In most cases, it doesn't work like that. And here I can share you quite a sad story, I would say. All of you, this is a picture of the Arab Spring. A few years ago, all of us were very excited, actually as a result of corruption, a major uprising, citizens went to the streets, and we all thought it would create huge change. But the truth is, and I'm working a lot with countries in the region, that little has changed. And if it has changed, it has been for the worse. And a lot of other countries that we see these uprisings, unfortunately, we don't have the accountability systems to make this real change coming from the citizens in that way. A disclaimer, I was talking to someone recently about this and said, well, it's true, but you should not have such a short-term memory sort of looking back. If we look 100 years back, we can see how citizens have managed through pressure to push policy and to change things. So perhaps in 150 years, we will see a change in anti-corruption because of this. Then the other issue is, so to give you some examples related to transparency. Well, what I said earlier, the idea is that you have citizens and people that have access finally to open data and information, and they can use this information and go against the government and hold them accountable. But actually, there was a very interesting research regarding this issue that shows, you have there you will have the slides, I imagine later, you have there the source, which shows how actually, well, what this could be the case in the majority of the cases actually has a sort of backfires, because what creates is resignation. So this is the virtuous circle. So ideally we have information, the pressure for accountability of reform, and this reform should happen. But most of the time it doesn't happen. So what happens? People get, I would say, discouraged, and they get moved from political life. And as you see in many countries, even here in France, we see more and more people removing themselves from political life. And of course, that's not what we want. Another research that we have used actually in our work with countries is that actually there is in analysis that these authors have made in their research and their experiments, is that there's no significant relationship between Freedom of Information Acts and reduced public sector corruption. Let me read you exactly. So what they did is, in an analysis of data from 128 countries between 1984 and 2003, these researchers found that there was no significant relationship between the Freedom of Information Acts and the reduced public sector corruption. So countries that have Freedom of Information Acts could be or not perceived corrupt, so there was no relationship. And actually worse, in the developing world, so we only looked at so-called developing countries, Freedom of Information Acts actually correlated to more perception of corruption. So this, of course, goes against what we normally would think that would happen if we have more freedom of information. This is something that you're probably aware with, which is, well, there is a strong correlation between open data and perceived corruption. So of course, more open data, you have less corruption, or perceived corruption, I should say. But what we did is actually, we removed non-OECD countries from here. The same name, we can generalize in the relevant countries. So here you see only OECD countries, and the correlation is much weaker. Which what shows here is that it's something else. What is related, this correlation that we saw before, is not really related to the open data, it's related to something else. That is, we can infer is related to the underlying administrative system at the level of development of the country. That, of course, we can generalize in the earlier slide. We can see it as a correlation, but when we start to dig a little bit deeper, we see that it's not really the case. And this is our own creation, I would say, in which you see on the left side, the OECD has an index on how citizens use open data, use and reuse open data. And as you see, very little correlation on perception of corruption. So this is even worse. Not only if they have it, even if they use it, we don't see any impact in the perception of corruption. So the solution, it's the culture. And this is what it takes me to the work that we're doing and the one that Sophia mentioned. And here are 3 examples that I'll try to go very quickly over them. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this UN study that was done a few years ago about UN diplomats in New York, and there was a study that showed that UN diplomats that were coming from countries of high perception of corruption were not paying their parking tickets, while the other ones, although there's no sanction for UN diplomats in New York. So it was not the sanction. This takes us back to the earlier message that I said, it's about the deterrence and the control. There was something else that made, I would say, a diplomat from Sweden, sure they did very well, and a diplomat from another country, less known, at least I knew them less, these other 2 studies, which is a study in which these researchers created an index which is called the prevalence of rule violations. So basically they conducted, they add up, obviously they aggregate tax evasion and other rule violations and create an index. And what they did is they did experiments with these people. And what they could see again, I will let you read the study just to go faster, but what they could see again is that those that were coming from corrupt countries that are perceived more corrupt were the ones who were cheating more in this experiment. And the third one, in Oxford students, the same. With Oxford undergraduate and graduate students, they were done an experiment that we've done ourselves with some government officials, which is a game in which you can cheat if you want to, no one can see you. And then by statistics, you have to roll a dice, and if you get a 6 or a 5, you get more money than you get a 1. And then statistically, everybody suddenly gets a 5. So of course some people are cheating. And there was a good correlation between those that were coming from countries so-called more corrupt and those that were not. The good news about this study is that they did it a few years later again. And what they saw is that those ones that had originally cheated more had cheated less the second time, which showed that they adapted to the morale or the values and the system in England and in Oxford. And it shows actually, I would say, a positive message that this can be changed, and actually rather quickly, and how people adapt to their environment. So to finish, I would say a little bit as a result of what you said before, or shared with you before, for 2 years we discussed with governments from OECD countries what we call a new approach to integrity. So it's partly addressing corruption, but even more than that. And we came up with what we call on the OECD, in addition to conventions, we also have soft law instruments, which are recommendations, and a new recommendation, and this is brand new, from 2017, in which we, learning from all the experience we've had and the experience of countries themselves, we've come up with this system. How, if you had an ideal system, how should this system look? And this is what we use now more and more to work with countries. I would say all countries have some aspects of this, but in one area or in another they could be weaker, and this is ideally what they should be working. So just very quickly I would say, what you saw before, this system is based on 3 pillars. The first one is that they need to have actually a system. In most countries we work with, they don't have a system. They have policies on anti-corruption, on perhaps whistleblower and conflict of interest and this and that, but they are not coherent, they are not coordinated. And here you see, well, of course you need commitment, you need a strategy. Many countries don't have any. You need standards, this goes to the law. But one thing that I would like to highlight here is the responsibilities, and you need institutions. Of course, institutions are there, but they rarely coordinate with each other. And the problem is that there's no one institution against corruption or for integrity. And the biggest problem actually we see here is, and that's why when sometimes I hear a lot of research or comments, I think we are completely disconnected to reality, because when you go to the country, when you meet these institutions, you see how weak they are. They have no resources after there are 3 people working for the whole country on issues of integrity and anti-corruption. And then we say you need political will, you need that, you need a law, you need that. You don't even have time to think. So this goes back to the serious lack of institutions and institutional strength that many countries are lacking. The issue is the issue of what I mentioned earlier. Of course, we need to talk about a culture of integrity and well, of course, you need leadership, you need to train public officials, you need a culture of openness with public officials, and then, well, there are many ways how to achieve this. Here I would highlight 2. I would like to highlight that more and more we're working on what we call a whole of society, because it has happened a lot that a lot of initiatives by international organizations are looking only at the government and government officials as they were separated from society. But of course, we have a workshop in the morning training them, well, ethics and this is nice, but then when they go home, the culture in their society is completely different. So this needs to be tackled in a much more holistic way, which is of course much more difficult. But here are those issues of how to retain children, how to really bring this issue to another level. There are here and there in very few countries some initiatives to work with the youth, and with real youth, I mean, kindergarten, primary school and secondary school. But this is far from the way it should be mainstream into education. In certain countries at least. And the other topic is this, you see here, is a merit base. I'm always surprised how little research, and I would like to call, if any of you, I'm sure you're very busy, but if you're thinking of a topic, I find this very interesting and there's very little done, which is the issue of the human resources system of a government and corruption. It has happened to me many times that I go and I share and talk to people that when they start telling me about how their system is organized, basically, if there's no career system, people get hired anyway. Everybody hires their cousins and their brothers and their sisters, and people get promoted for no reason because they're friendly. If you have a system like that, it's very difficult to talk about integrity and anti-corruption when these people are part of a system that they see already completely rigged. And unfortunately, there's very little research done on what is even a merit-based system, what is merit, and how do you bring a merit-based system into action. We normally look at 2 issues, how people get hired and how people get promoted. These are, I would say, 2 key areas. There's so much more. And if we look really at countries, how they work, most countries do have a career system. And most people working for a government are not in the career system. More and more OECD countries have people working for the government on contracts. And that means they are not part of the civil service. That means many of the rules pertinent to civil service do not apply to them. Anyway, last point is the effective accountability. This perhaps is the most traditional one. Of course, although I was talking a little bit against it, of course you need enforcement, of course you need oversight. And here I would focus on 2 things, the participation. So you might think, well, you just said that participation was not really so useful. But here we're talking about another type, it's participation of citizens and many types of stakeholders in the development of different policies. And this is one of the ways to counteract what I said earlier, perhaps one of the most damaging product acts, which is the issue of conflict of interest, the issue of illegal influence, or perhaps not illegal, just influence in government policy. This is what's happening with most devastating effect on societies. Not so much bribery, I would dare to say, but policies that are designed for a particular group under the influence of a particular group that only benefit a particular group. And we see it actually in the some of the discussions around the world that this is getting to a point that, I think it's not sustainable. So it's part of when we talk about integrity, we talk about being also to these issues. And the last point is risk management. This is again one I always say, and the people that work in our team that work in this area, and we have said, it's a very boring issue of audit. Already, many countries have an internal audit function that is there, that is not exploited to the world it should be. And this is what I mean about going back to the basics and working on the things that are there and are meant to have a function and perhaps don't work very well, or work very bad, and let's just fix it, and perhaps have a more approach in terms of risks, which is something that is coming a little bit from the private sector into the public sector. There's still a lot of work to do there. So that's all. Unfortunately, I forgot my business card, but if any of you wants to reach me for any reason, this is my email. I'd like to share with you also that obviously we organize every year in March. So next year it will be the week of 26th of March. What we call an Integrity Forum. It's a very big meeting, which we are very proud to say is multidisciplinary and multi-stakeholder in the sense that we really make an effort to bring public officials and academics and researchers and private sector. These are our three big groups. We have, as much as possible, we put them together to discuss some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julio, for this interesting talk coming from another perspective, in a way. So I'm sure it will spark interest among the participants of the forum. So, yeah, Paul?
Thank you very much, and can I start out by saying just how refreshing it is to have an approach which looks at integrity rather than anti-corruption. I think that's an immensely important step forward. The OECD should be very, very strongly congratulated for taking this initiative and having been doing it for some time as well. It's not just a very recent thing they've done, but I think there are still some issues. I think the general outline of the approach is great. In the big anti-corruption program that just finished earlier this year, I was responsible for a section of it looking at integrity and integrity management.
Can you speak up a bit?
So in the anti-corruption project, I was responsible for looking at integrity and integrity management as a discrete part of that project. One of the things that's quite clear from our work on integrity is that although it's very easy to talk about integrity, we tend to assume that everybody knows what integrity is and that it's not particularly problematic. And in practice, what generally happens when people talk about integrity, what they are actually saying is lack of corruption. So once you get rid of corruption, what you're left with is integrity. And of course, that's not true, and it actually just sets a very, very low bar. Not being corrupt is the least we might expect. But that's not the same as acting with integrity. However, the difficulty is actually specifying what acting with integrity is very, very difficult. It's not self-evident. And in turn, like many of the other things that we were talking about, it's an intensely political issue. And it will be affected by your particular model or your particular conception of governance, of what constitutes a public interest, what should be the proper role of public officials, what should be the role of government, what should be, what's your understanding of individual motivation, how should administrative systems work, should there be public administration, should there be public management, should there be public service. All of these things affect what we mean by integrity and how we can actually try to instill it. And I'd say that the thing that is still lacking in the work that you're doing is really important, is a clear outline beyond simply saying integrity is people working in accord with established public values and norms. What does that mean in a way that can actually move beyond each individual country saying, well, we have our own integrity system?
Well, definitely we agree. Well, this is we are touching on an issue that took us a lot, but I must say the OECD is a rather small organization of it's a coherent type of countries. So we had it easy because of that. But still it was hard to come. I mean, for us, what we try to do is just to simplify, and what you just said is, for us, the key of integrity is the public interest. This is what should come always first. Now, what's the public interest, you may ask? That's what we leave to each country and society to decide what's their own. Now, if we go outside of OECD countries and we more and more do and work, and I'm starting to struggle with what you just said, is the political systems are different. And then what's the public interest? In some countries, it doesn't really exist. But that's my response would be to keep it short. Fortunately, so far, we are strict in terms of values and tools that promote public interest. And to give something that I mentioned, but to give you a little more example on how much, so just to illustrate how much we go beyond anti-corruption or corruption in that sense, we also work quite a lot, on issues that are not, for example, here in France now it's an interesting debate, which is not issues that are illegal. And there are three issues that we work a lot on, which is the issue of conflict of interest, the issue of lobbying, and the issue of the financing of political parties and election campaigns. These issues normally are regulated, rules are more or less clear, but still we have what we call the capture of policies, what I mentioned earlier, by its interest groups. And this is clearly many times against the public interest. It's not done with integrity, but it's not corruption. Lobbying is normally okay if you don't give. I mean, if you give something, that's not lobbying. That's where it's either trading influence, it's a bribe. That's clear immediately. It's criminal. It could be criminalized at least. But the soft way of relationship between some groups and the government. So that's why I mentioned France. In France, there's a rethink now, thinking about some of the rules that exist and whether these are actually ethical and with integrity. It's not really corruption. We are talking about integrity, which is much more.
So you said there's no